All right, so today we're diving deep, really deep into Arundhati Roy's The God of Small Things.
It's a fascinating book.
It is. And we're focusing on these specific excerpts, kind of like a snapshot of this family in India back in 1969.
Yeah, and Roy doesn't waste any time. These excerpts, they throw us right into this pivotal moment for this family.
A turning point, you could say.
Exactly. Roy even describes it as this moment where, like, their hidden morality is going to come undone.
Ooh, that's heavy. And we're experiencing it all, like right there with the twins, Rahel and Esta, crammed in the back seat of this, get this, a sky blue Plymouth.
Which, by the way, used to belong to their grandfather, Papachi.
Right. Papachi, who's recently passed away. And they're heading to Cochin with their mom, Amu, and their uncle Chaco behind the wheel.
And it's not just a casual family road trip. There's this underlying tension, like something simmering beneath the surface.
Totally. Their English relatives, Margaret and Sophie Mall, are about to arrive, and you can tell everyone's a bit on edge.
A bit. I'd say they're practically bracing for impact.
Oh, for sure. And then there's that billboard strapped to the car. Paradise Pickles and Preserves. Hard to miss that.
It's more than just a billboard. It's like this symbol of their family business, their ambitions, and even their place in society.
Definitely adds another layer to the whole dynamic. Okay, so let's break down this family a bit. We've got Chaco, the intellectual, Oxford-educated back home to run the pickle factory.
Amu describes him as having these Oxford moods, always quoting literature. He's got these big ambitions for the factory.
But maybe not so much the practical know-how.
Yeah, maybe his head's a little more in the clouds than down in the dirt of running a business.
I get that. And then there's Amu facing a whole different set of challenges. Divorced, young, back in her childhood home after a failed marriage.
The weight of societal expectations on her, it's palpable. Especially from figures like Baby Kochama, her aunt.
Oh, baby Kachama, she doesn't hold back, does she?
Not one bit. The embodiment of tradition and disapproval, always reminding Amu and the twins they're living on borrowed time, not quite fitting in.
It's like this constant pressure cooker. You could feel it building. And then, bam, we hit this turning point, the level crossing.
Oh, this scene is brilliant. It's like two worlds colliding. Imagine a massive communist march, a sea of red flags, people chanting.
And right in the middle of it, our sky blue Plymouth, Paradise Pickles and Preserves on full display.
It's almost comical, but the tension is so thick you could cut it with a knife.
And Chaco, who considers himself a Marxist, he's strangely quiet during this whole encounter. What do you make of that?
I think it reveals this inner conflict. He's drawn to this ideology, but he's also aware of his privilege as a factory owner, stuck between a rock and a hard place.
Meanwhile, Baby Kachama's practically having a meltdown in the back seat, terrified of the marchers.
The complete opposite of Chaco in this moment. For her, the march represents chaos, the dismantling of everything she believes in.
It's intense, and then suddenly Rahel spots someone marching amongst the protesters. Velutha.
Now, Velutha, he's a Paravan, considered untouchable in this society. But to the twins, he's their beloved friend.
And Amu's reaction to Rahel acknowledging him, it's fierce, almost violent. There's something deeper going on here, right? Secrets we haven't uncovered yet.
Absolutely. This is where things get really interesting. The fact that Velutha's even there, at the march. And Amu's response, it's like a crack in their carefully constructed world.
Right. It raises so many questions. What's the story with Velutha? Why such a strong reaction from Amu?
And this is where the novel starts to grapple with the complexities of the caste system, the unspoken rules that govern their lives, and the potential consequences if those rules are broken.
So to understand what's going on, we need to understand Velutha. We know he's considered untouchable, but what's his connection to this family? Why is he so important to the twins?
Velutha, he's pivotal to this story. Understanding him is like unlocking everything that's about to unfold. Now, his name actually means white in Malayalam, but he's got very dark skin. He's the son of Veliapappan, a toddy tapper. And he's been around the Amenem house, their family home, since he was a boy.
I've read he was incredibly gifted, even as a kid, especially when it came to craftsmanship.
Oh, a natural, absolutely. Could make the most intricate toys, carve figures. Amu's mother, Momachi, she recognized his skill.
And had him educated, right?
Yes, at a school specifically for untouchables, which her father-in-law had actually founded. Later on, Velutha even trained with a German carpenter, learned some really advanced techniques.
So he was more than just a handyman, he was a skilled artisan.
Absolutely. He was invaluable to the family, could fix anything. Radios, water pumps, the machinery at the pickle factory. Even designed that fancy sliding folding door on the veranda that everyone was copying.
But at the end of the day,
He was still a paravan.
how did that impact his life, his relationship with the family?
That's where the tragedy lies. Despite his talent, his contributions, Velutha was still bound by the rigid rules of the caste system. Even Mamachi, who appreciated his work, she never let him forget his place. Paid him less than a touchable carpenter, never allowed him inside the house unless there was something that needed fixing.
Heartbreaking. Such an integral part of their lives, yet kept at a distance.
Because of something he had absolutely no control over. And this is where the seeds of conflict are sown. Because despite these constraints, Velutha and the twins, they formed a deep bond. He became their friend, their teacher, someone who saw them, shared his knowledge freely.
And then there's this period where Velutha disappears for a few years.
Vanished. There were rumors he'd gone to Trivandrum, maybe even joined the Naxalites, this radical communist faction. When he returned, didn't speak of his time away. But there was this change in him. Even his father, lıoat, was worried.
What was it about Velutha that worried his father? Do you think it was related to his time away?
lıoat couldn't quite put his finger on it, but he sensed this. Lack of hesitation in Velutha, an assurance in his walk, in the way he held his head, qualities that might be admired in a touchable, but in a paravan, they were seen as insolent, dangerous even.
So this sense of unease, it was already there, even before Velutha's involvement with Amu came to light.
Yes. And it intensified when lıoat discovered the truth about their relationship. It wasn't just that they were in love. It was that they dared to cross a line that was considered unbreachable. A paravan loving a touchable woman. Unthinkable, unforgivable.
This is where we get to the heart of it, this forbidden love affair. A secret that, as we're learning, could shatter this family, their whole world.
And remember, this is 1969, social norms, incredibly rigid. The consequences for both Velutha and Amu, they're going to be immense.
This is heavy stuff. I have a feeling this road trip to Cochin is just the beginning of a much bigger, much more turbulent journey.
Oh, absolutely. We've only just scratched the surface. Remember, everything we've talked about so far, it's just a glimpse into their lives. There are layers upon layers of history, societal pressures, individual desires that are going to play out in ways you might not expect.
You've definitely piqued my curiosity. I need to know what happens next. But before we jump into that, let's take a moment to reflect. What stands out to you about this family, their world? What's resonating with you? Hold on to those thoughts as we continue our deep dive. You know what gets me? It's like Roy uses this simple family road trip to expose all these cracks in their society.
Yeah, you see the remnants of colonialism, the class tensions, the caste system.
It's all there, bubbling under the surface, waiting to erupt.
It's like she's giving us this x-ray of their world. You see the fault lines before the whole thing shattered.
And then you throw the English relatives into the mix. Margaret and Sophie Mall.
Oh, yeah, as a whole other layer of complexity.
I remember them prepping for Sophie Mall's arrival all week, like a hurricane was about to hit.
It was the, as Roy puts it, the what will Sophie Mall think week.
Totally. Obsessed with appearances, worried about measuring up.
Even though they're family, it feels like the Malls represent this whole different world.
Right. And it kind of highlights this internalized sense of inferiority, especially for Chaco, maybe even Amu a bit.
Definitely a legacy of colonialism that's still shaping their perspectives.
Stuck between two worlds, not fully belonging to either. And you see this play out in their relationships, too. Like Pappachi, he's such a fascinating but flawed character.
Oh, he embodies that yearning for validation from the colonizers. Imperial entomologist wore a suit every day, even in the Yemenim heat, but also deeply bitter.
Especially after the whole Moth incident.
Oh, right. He discovered this new species of moth. But because bureaucratic stuff and taxonomic changes...
Someone else got the credit.
Exactly. Named after someone else. Completely crushed him.
I mean, I get being disappointed, but it sounds like it really messed him up.
Oh, yeah. It festered, turned into this resentment that poisoned his relationships, especially with Mamachi, his wife.
He became abusive.
Yeah. Took out his frustrations on her.
It's kind of sad. Amu even says that Mamachi cried more because she was used to him than because she loved him.
Powerful line, right?
It is. Speaks volumes about their relationship, how you can get trapped in these unhealthy patterns.
Mistaking familiarity for love.
Exactly. And Amu, she's seen it all firsthand. Determined to break free, even if it means going against society.
And she pays a price for it. Divorce, back in Yemenim. She's constantly judged, ostracized.
But she's also incredibly strong. You see that fierce protectiveness over the twins, even when they drive her crazy.
Her love is so deep, tender and fierce at the same time. She recognizes their vulnerability, their willingness to love unconditionally.
And it terrifies her.
Yeah, wants to protect them from the pain she's experienced.
Which makes her reaction to Rahel calling out to Velutha even more interesting. On one hand, you get the fear, the danger he represents. But on the other hand,
Is it also directed at herself? At her own forbidden desires?
maybe. That's what's so brilliant about Roy's writing. She doesn't give you easy answers.
Makes you confront the messiness, the contradictions.
Totally. And the twins, they're not just bystanders. They're engaging with their world, even if they don't fully grasp everything. Their fascination with language, the history house, their bond with Velutha.
They represent this innocence, a kind of pre-awareness of the social boundaries that are about to close in.
Like explorers venturing into uncharted territory.
Exactly. And their relationship with Velutha, it's so pure. He's their friend, their teacher.
He opens their eyes to the magic of craftsmanship, of nature.
And it kind of highlights the absurdity of the caste system, right?
Yeah.
Here's this man, incredibly skilled, kind-hearted,
Treated as less than human.
because of his birth.
It's infuriating, and you see Velutha's father, Pappin, torn between loving his son and fearing the consequences.
He's trapped too, trying to protect his son by enforcing the very rules that oppress them.
A tragic cycle. There's definitely this pattern emerging here, whether it's PAPPACHI'S resentment, Amu's rebellion, or Velutha's actions.
That tension between individual desires and societal expectations.
Like everyone's caught in this web they can't escape.
It's a great observation. And that encounter at the level crossing with the March Velutha, it's like a catalyst.
The personal and the political colliding.
And the repercussions are going to be huge. This family's about to be swept up in something much bigger than themselves.
Before we go any further, let's just take a moment to reflect. What resonates with you most? What questions are you grappling with? Hold on to those thoughts as we continue exploring the God of small things.
You know, it's kind of crazy how Roy foreshadows all this trouble brewing through these tiny little details.
Like what?
Well, you got the squashed frog on the road, those dead birds on the wires.
Yeah, it's subtle but powerful.
It creates this feeling like, something's off, like a storm's coming.
And the twins, they're picking up on it too. They're so sensitive. You know, their imaginations are running wild.
Like Rahel with her toy watch, obsessed with the time. Almost as if she wants to control it, change it.
She senses something shifting. Maybe that time is running out, like something bad's going to happen. Makes you think. And then there's that history house always looming in the background.
Yeah, that constant reminder of the past, all those secrets that haven't really gone away.
Speaking of the past, what about Chico's whole explanation of the Earth Woman? How does that fit in?
Well, the history house is a big symbol in the book, and it ties directly to that idea of the Earth Woman. Remember how Chaco compares, like, the vastness of geological time to, the little blip of human civilization?
He says we're just a twinkle in her eye.
Right. But looking back, that word twinkle, it almost feels wrong.
Too lighthearted.
Yeah, for all the darkness that's closing in on this family.
It's like Roy's playing with language to create this feeling of unease, you know?
Definitely. And then you have that last scene at the level crossing, Baby Kichama forced to wave that red flag.
Oh man, that's both funny and disturbing.
Humiliated, reduced to this figure of ridicule.
Yeah.
But it's a turning point for her, for sure.
It hardens her resolve.
Exactly. Her fear, her hatred towards Velutha, it explodes in that moment. She becomes the face of the old order, clinging to power.
You think she's been infected by PAPPACHI'S moth? You know, that pernicious ghost?
Ooh, interesting thought. Like his bitterness, his resentment, has it taken root in her?
It's kind of scary, you know? Like these patterns, this trauma just gets passed down.
It's a cycle. And it makes you wonder about the twins. They've seen so much already, the clashes, the tensions, this forbidden love.
What will become of them? How will they deal with all this?
That's the big question Roy leaves us with. And it's not just about this story, it's about how history, society, and our own choices shape us.
So for us listening, what are we taking away from all this?
I think Roy wants us to look deeper, to see the complexity of relationships, how power dynamics work even in families,
To consider the weight of history, how society tries to control us.
and the courage it takes to defy those expectations.
And to remember that even in everyday moments, huge change can happen, good or bad.
Exactly. That road trip was just the start, the real journey, the one that'll change these characters forever. It's just beginning.
And with that, we've reached the end of our deep dive into the God of small things. But the conversation doesn't have to end here. Think about Velutha. Amu's reaction? What does it tell us about secrets, societal norms, and breaking the rules? What about the twins? What do you think lies ahead for them? Keep thinking, keep exploring.